Hi. If you've ever wondered, what's the definition of a facilitator? What is the role of a facilitator? And how is it you go around to facilitating a quality group discussion? Well, you've come to the right place. Over the next few minutes, we're going to go through and we'll work through that, and we'll talk about these and a couple other topics. When we can live life on our terms, on a holistic level, taking into account not just our business lives, but also our health, all of our relationships, from friends, family, partners, the world changes. What is the definition of this? Well, the reality is that most facilitators are facilitating a conversation. The conversation is going to be something that gets meandered through with a targeted objective or outcome where people want to go. We don't know the specifics of that outcome, but we are seeking some sort of resolution, or in some cases it may be seeking resolution, it may be seeking objectives, structure, different types of things. But when you're facilitating, it means that you're not necessarily the one who's going to be participating. You're not the expert in the room on the topic, but you're the expert in the room in helping the conversation to maintain and keep going in the right direction. So there's a variety of things that are important when we're doing this. But keep in mind that there's a difference between being a facilitator. There's a difference between being a facilitator and an advisor, as well as a coach. So a lot of times, a coach is somebody who focuses more on the fears and what's holding us back for the opportunities for the future. I like to say that even like a counselor typically deals with the challenges of the past. A coach is dealing with the fears and concerns of the future, works as a sounding board to help challenge and push. And then a lot of times a strategic advisor, which is what I do a lot of work with, is where people actually act as a collaborator and they actually get involved. So it's a combination of being a facilitator, it's a combination of being a coach, but then it's also calling somebody out, challenging them, collaborating with them, connecting people in other ways. To me, a strategic advisor is one of the most intimate topics that you can get into. But for today, we're going to talk more about the idea of facilitation. And it's become popular because there's a variety of different tools that are available out in the world where people can get certified in different types of business operating systems. In these cases, they're facilitating the process for this operating system to where they're going with a specific objective in mind. It's the specific objective in mind that you're targeting. So when you're facilitating a conversation, sometimes it's because there's a challenge that's been presented and the act of facilitation is targeting to get to a point of resolution. One of the key things as a facilitator is to help identify what does success look like for our time together. Where is the outcome we're targeting to get to? What is it we want to get to? What does success look like? So in some cases, if you're doing quarterly or annual or different types of strategic planning, it's to come up with a plan, a strategy for the next quarter. If we're having a dramatic challenge, maybe we're looking at potential layoffs or we've got a legal issue or who knows what it is, it's figuring out what do we need to do to resolve this problem or at least move this issue forward in some way, shape, or form. So when it starts to being a great facilitator, first we want to identify what is the agenda that we're getting together with. And this is usually done with the senior leaders of the organization in advance before you come together. I'm working with a group tomorrow, full day session, and we've actually identified a different direction than what we had initially met or intended, because I feel as a facilitator, it is not my job to instill my message on them or make them go through my process. It's my job to meet them where they're at. And when I say that, people and organizations and leadership teams are usually in one of four phases: stabilization, visualization, strategization, or execution. And it's our job to be curious and understand where are they, look between the lines, and then help them identify, and we define then ideally together, what does a great structure or agenda look like for our time together. Once we have that, a lot of times we may end up going all over the place. We may use it, we may bounce off, other things may come up that are a bigger priority. But it helps us as a guideline of where we're going so we can start to clearly define what does success look like on where we want to go. The next thing, when you're actually doing the facilitation, and this is an important one, is making sure that you're very, very present. that your head is on straight, that you're 100% prepared to be there. This means phone off. This means in advance, prepped, breathing, good spot. A lot of times I'll be ready 30 minutes before and have a cup of coffee sitting there, looking out the window thinking. Usually as a facilitator, we account pretty well for doing this. Now, I've had the good fortune to literally facilitate thousands of conversations, hundreds and hundreds of full-day sessions. And to me, it is our obligation to be very present, to be looking at the people, to be reading the body language, to be reading the relationships, seeing where things are at. So we finally get together, everybody's there. It's staying positive, meeting them where they're at, actually being servant if you can. I think there's a lot to the servant leadership. I intentionally try and serve coffee, water, whatever it is for people when they come in. I want them to know that I am there for them. Then we go around the room, and typically we'll do an introduction. If it's a new group, I want to understand who they are, what they're accountable for. But if it's usually a group that we already know, I want to go through and remind people of positives. Let's make sure that we celebrate. What are some of the positives that's been happening personal? Because we want people to connect with each other as individuals, but then also some of those things in business. And then we want to listen for what are the challenges that have been created today? What are the challenges people are facing? And we document those, but we're also trying to look between the lines. Remember, the majority of the challenges somebody presents, those are symptoms. They aren't really the issue, the core challenge that you're facing. So as you go around the room, if you can hear common themes, maybe we hear this, we hear this, we hear this, it's like, wow, those are all people issues. We may write that down. As a facilitator, that's our job to try and look between the lines. Now, it's also important for us to be reading the body language. 80% of how we communicate comes in other forms other than nonverbal. It's in body language. You can tell this from the very second people come into the room. Where do they sit? Do they look you in the eye? Are they frustrated? Are they early? Are they frazzled? Another simple way of doing this, check-ins too, is a lot of times I'll do what's a one-word open for people when we start. The intention with a one-word open is pretty basic, but I want to know where people's head's at. And if somebody comes in and they're obviously frustrated or pissed off, and it's like, okay, are they frustrated? Somebody in the room? What's going on? That one word open, but if they say, yeah, I'm frustrated. I got up and my dog made a mess and I stepped in it, I'm running late. And okay, great. So now you can understand where that person's perspective is. But as a facilitator, you can't take anything personal. You've got to be Teflon. You've got to have thick skin. Be very, very open and candid and receptive to where they're at and try and understand that, but read that room, read the language, the body language of those people. So once you do that check-in, then I always remind people of what the primary objectives of where we're going, but then I help them understand what are the expectations, my expectations of them, and what their expectations of me should be. And one of the key things I say a lot of times is, look, I feel I have to come to every session 100% prepared to get fired. Now it sounds like there's a little bravado there, but it's not intended to. But what it is intended is to let them know, to put them on notice, that it's my job to call out things if I see that. If I see somebody sitting there with their arms crossed, looking away, not making eye contact, I'm gonna go after them. I'm gonna be compassionate and curious. Maybe like, hey, where's your head at with this? No, I'm fine. Okay, well, I'm not sure I understand that. So what does that mean to me? But don't be afraid of keeping to drill down and push to it. A good facilitator is going to be willing to challenge and drive and help figure out those problems. When two people are having frustrations, fair enough, it's better to get it out. Somebody's thinking it. So the other expectation I like to say is I hope people have business Tourette's. And I know that's not necessarily politically correct, but I want people to not, basically when they're sitting in my session space, I want them to basically have no filter. If they're like, oh my God, that guy's being an idiot. It's like, was that out loud? I want that to happen because other people are thinking about it. And the more we can get that out on the table, the better it is that we can deal with it. Now, if somebody starts bullying somebody or somebody starts to pile on, no, that's not going to work. That's our job as a facilitator, as a senior there, is to say, no, we don't get to do that. We call that out. But when we hear things that are contradictory in other areas, as a facilitator, we're not solving it, but we're helping them to see it. And through that, how can we create that trusting atmosphere where people are going to be open and candid? And then how can we be curious? So when somebody says one thing and somebody's like, okay, hey Steve, help me understand. What are you thinking there? Where's your head coming from? Because obviously for Joe, you frustrated him. Joe, okay, now that you've heard that, and if people start getting upset, I'm gonna set the table on how they should have those conversations. Steve, hear where your head's at, man. As you take a breath, please. It's not about listening to be right. I want you to be curious. What are the possibilities? Is it possible? I don't know, maybe it's ridiculous. But it's helping facilitate those conversations. And if you end up with two people who are really at loggerheads, man, they're not having a good time. This is where you can do some very simple things. Say, all right, Steve, tell 3 things that you like about Joe. Joe, 3 things you like about Steve. It's pretty easy, but if it disarms people, say, well, I appreciate this and you're a snappy dresser or whatever, there's something positive everybody can find. When they hear that, then it's like, okay, this person isn't attacking me, this person is attacking something I'm dealing with. But this is where the real juice comes when you're facilitating, when you're getting into the deep value in these processes, is helping people dig, and figure out where are they having the challenges? What are those challenges? And then once you start to know that, then you can get to where you're starting to push for solves and different challenges, or solves, and what are the action steps that you can build to go out of this. Now, for a lot of people, this is sort of the initial baseline. But as I said, once you start as a facilitator, then you actually can start leaning into where you're more coaching. Coaching is going to help people see opportunities for growth. Maybe they've got blind spots, challenges. And one of the things that we do with Life on Your Terms, lifeon-yourterms.com, is we provide a whole toolkit for facilitators who are looking to go deeper with their clients. People who want to be able to work with the entire whole person and address the challenges that they may be seeing. Because the reality is that work-life balance no longer exists. But a healthy work-life integration is possible. And when you can get an entire team working on a healthy work-life integration, and they're working with each other, they're being open and honest, amazing things start to happen. So with this, if you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Please like the channel, subscribe. If you have questions, you can reach us at lifeon-yourterms.com. But hey, stick with the channel. We've got a bunch of other videos out there. And again, thank you very much for investing the time and energy. When it comes to being a great facilitator, it's a matter of being fearless, be prepared, know where you're going, and then just wade into it and own it. But have fun. Wish you nothing but the best. Keep smiling.